Aloha mai kakoa pau, everybody. What a pleasure to be here. Marian and Charla, thank you so much for having me. This is the Hulihia. This is the time of change. So they were kind enough to let me remove the word affordable in this talk because affordable housing sounds good, but here in Hawaii, when people are saying 750, $800,000, that is not affordable to me or to almost anybody I know. So let's discuss today in a process called reframing housing in Hawaii. All right. So Hulihia is about this time of change. It's not about just bringing out the ponds and stirring the water. It's about getting out of the pool and jumping in the ocean. And so we have so many different ways to look at housing. And I appreciate all of you here and all of you participating in this and in the future of you ACM students and faculty so that you too can envision a different form, a different idea, a different way of thinking about resonance and coherence, because that is what I'm learning by Federico Fargin in his book Irreducible. And he is the man to describe the distinction between AI and consciousness. And so it's don't fear this. It's already here, and that's our evolution. So here we go. This is what I learned from last month with Justin. He was pretty clear, wasn't he? He was really clear. But when he said very, very matter-of-factly, because he's a creative economist, that 80% of the people who live in Hawaii don't have the income to support purchasing a home. I'm thinking to myself, I knew it. I knew it. I knew something was up. So there it is. And that we have the highest form of homelessness in the United States, and Mississippi has the lowest. So, but then what was interesting, he said, this is simply a discussion of supply and demand. And so, as an economist will, they'll give you the really good facts for us to think about our own thinking of the problem. So this is what we need you to do, our ACM faculty and students. Rethink the problem. It really isn't about affordable housing. It's about housing. Okay. So let's figure out housing because no one really knows that capitalism is an epistemology. So look that word up, everyone. Capitalism is an epistemology. It's actually a framework in which people are supposed to view the world, but we have only viewed that world for the last 100+ years. So we have a longer version. My work is in indigenous epistemology. We have a longer capacity to understand continuity. So look at the Kauhale systems, look at different intergenerational systems, look at the idea of safety. So here we go. I'm going to read, I just was given this idea of with a group of people that 55 minutes. Einstein said, if you're going to look at a problem, you're not going to just, run to the solution. You're going to look at the problem. If you had only an hour, you're going to define and understand the problem for 55 minutes. And the last 5 minutes, the solutions will be developed. That is brilliant. So today, we're only going to look at the first 10 minutes of this problem. And that's the frame of it. We've reframed the problem improperly. Okay? It's not about affordable housing. I mean, that assumes that we all have about $1 million a year. So that assumption is wrong. So we have framed the problem wrong. So let's rethink this. Do you see this wonderful? I just put this up yesterday. I just found this out. So get the book, 55 Minutes by James Stosh. And so as we look at this problem, the situation that we're in, almost the most expensive place to live in the world with the highest rate of homelessness, let's not think that it's about getting more money, because as we know, there's 100 to 200 billionaires here in Hawaii. And so the prices are rising because people can afford it, except the people who live here. Everybody has family who's moved away. Everybody has siblings that have moved away. So please understand that I'm coming as a philosopher into this issue, not as a planner, not as a construction worker. All right. So here we go. Dave McDonald, our fiscal um, director here at UH West Oahu, just gave this to me 5 minutes ago, and I was able to slap it in here. So homelessness has gone up 12% in the last 2 years, and a disproportionate number is in our coast, our west. Housing burden, 30%, Dave told me, is the housing burden. You should only be paying 30% of your income to housing. Well, ours is at least 50. I thought 50 was low because I think we're doing 70% of our income is going to insurance, rent, mortgage. So if it's that high, we're in trouble. And oh yeah, we're in trouble. So, but these are actual facts that I want you to understand that we need to reframe the situation that we're in. Also, no one correlates the commute all the way from the Waianae to Honolulu. That's a lot. It takes at least 2 hours, so 4 hours a day, and the wear and tear in your car. The added costs are staggering. So here we go. Let's begin to reframe the idea. Krishnamurti was one of my teachers. He lived finally in Ojai, California, and I actually listened to him in 1978. He was a worldwide teacher, and he said it is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. So, this is not a judgment. You know, you don't judge people when they're sick. You take care of them. You give them medicine. You help them. So when I learned this when I was about 40, 42 years old, everything changed for me. I was able to see things differently and to actually acknowledge things differently. So we're in a sick society right now. And one of my favorite quotes is by a man named Christopher Bosch. He said, "Spiritual development accelerates with the engagement of contrast." So that's what we have in Hawaii. We're engaging with contrast. And the contrast could be called conflict, but I call it contrast so that we can evolve in a way that's collaborative, inclusive, and efficacious. So what people don't understand is capitalism isn't epistemology. What that means is it's a way of people considering you intelligent, meaning it's a way of thinking, it's a worldview. So, because we don't know that we are actually, we're using a worldview that is non-sustainable, we don't have the right ability to ask the right questions. So, in reframing the questions, we have to start again by simply asking, what is housing? How do we keep people safe? How do we do that in a different way that doesn't burden us beyond 50% or 30%? Can you imagine if we're 30%? I'm renting. My wife and I are renting, so we have a 30% burden, so we can't afford for the rest of our lives. So I've come to understand that safety is what we want, and continuity. Not ownership. Ownership is simply the temporary right to exclude. And but at the core of ownership is safety. So do you see that if we start to reframe it, safety could be the bottom epistemological understanding of how housing is shaped, not capitalism, not whether or not I can become a lawyer and get $250,000 a year income. We've tried that. We tried that. And it hasn't worked. So this is why this picture is for you, because the snail is going everywhere. And we're not really clear about our direction because we're asking the wrong questions. So my job here at UH West Oahu is to contextualize Ike Kupuna, or Hawaiian knowledge systems, into more enduring systems. Ho'olu aku, ho'olu mai. Our evolution is collective. Our growth is collective. Everything is collective. And so this was something we did on the island of Maui in January. And we put in an entire coconut grove in Uluniu and we called it Kapua Wailana. And we put in 133 coconuts, 24 varieties, and we did it with this group of people. And no one's paid in this group. Nobody, nobody, nobody. The coconuts were free. Everything was about giving. So the energy of our evolution is not about money. We just think it is. So so there's one thing of capitalism and its epistemology. It's not about money. So don't start with that as your indicator of success. I know China could make homes for $5,000, not $500,000. I know they would because the bamboo, the fastest growing plant in the world, is a very, very viable building. We tried growing bamboo in the Big Island, and we're still at it. So ho'olu aku ho'olu mai, meaning it's a collective movement. So we're not dissing the economists. We're adding all facets to this discussion so we can become better informed, but better clearer because we here in Hawaii have something different to offer the planet. Thank you, Albert. It's our thinking. Change our thinking, change the world. I had a friend, his name was, who was the guy that wrote Global Mind Chain? Willis Harman. And he brought me to this quote: "The world as we created is the result of our thinking." So if we understand that capitalism is a form of thinking, we'll develop something more enduring. Okay? Because Hawaii is attracting the billionaires. Hawaii is attracting the people with millions. And so, that's not a negative, that's not a positive, it's just a fact. Our job is to respond with the maturity and with ike kupuna that coalesces and collaborates with minds in the world that really are clear. So it's our thinking. And the 55 minutes, that's Einstein's idea. If the world had, if you were looking at a problem and you had only 1 hour, you spend 55 minutes developing what the solution is. So you look at you frame the problem, you understand the landscape, you understand its history, the origins, the futures, the experience, the relationships, the power dynamics. Look at that, the causality of who's in charge, what happens, and then the narrative. I can't wait to read the book. So, and then we do the action. So if the ACM gang, if you're doing the action before you understand the problem, then it's going to only be a Band-Aid on a compound fracture. So please understand the issue. And so when Einstein said change our thinking, I don't even think we know how to change our thinking. So I don't know what it's going to take. Meditation classes over the ACM area and something, PE classes. I can teach you some, yoga things. So produce something so that your thinking is not automatic, is not really about just affordability. Affordability is not 750,000. It's not even 600,000. Okay? It's not. It's not. Because look at this. Hahai no ka'ua ka ulula. You got to sprinkle in our ike kupuna. This is one of our ulunia work days. Is anybody paid in there? I mean, it's hard to find where we are in the back of our campus. This is a Saturday. So when people are animated, excited, wanting to help, there's going to be an energetic field of expansion that they are now calling coherence or resonance. There's going to be this happens every month here for the last 6 years. You guys interested? You know what I mean? We have a food security movement here happening on the campus, and we should be planting coconuts all around. So so quiet, I'm water. Water, what's the thing that really changes stone? Water. But it's called over time. Things of quality have no fear of time. And so, haha no ka'ui ka'ululo'au technically means plant a forest and the rains will come. But the noahuna, the one esoteric meaning based on my own personal experience is share purpose with others and transform the world. That's resonance. See, this is resonance. So as we evolve, because AI is becoming a tool, it's no longer a fearful. I mean, if you fear AI, it's because you don't know yourself. And so AI to me is a mirror. It's a mirror. So, and I learned that through three of our interns here at UH West Oahu. And I've been saying for 4 years that AI is not quite a tool because it's like giving a chainsaw to a 4-year-old. But now it's like giving a chainsaw to a 10-year-old. I've actually done that. Smaller chainsaw, a 10-year-old that's been around the chainsaw, and she or he would be can learn it. So now we're about 10 years old using a chainsaw. The question is, what are we cutting down? What are we learning? So, what I'm learning when you combine indigenous epistemology with things like brain research, you can even combine it with the designs of housing.
Right, 합쳤더니.
And you can actually combine it with you can actually combine it with and Kelani, this is really fun for you to know. It really is changing brain research if you add the philosophical systems of continuity that indigenous epistemology posits. It's really amazing. So I'm blown away by the collaborations through global scholars. And so we have to collaborate with unusual people now. People have to collaborate with Hawaiians now. You just got to. Not only are we fun, we've got a different thing that we offer the world because love, land, serve people is at our center. It's just at our center. Love, land, serve people. Because look at these guys. I don't know these guys. You know what I mean? They just wanted to help. We've got a Uluniu, a coconut grove with 6 new poko dwarfs, 6 different varieties, and 4 different varieties of ulu. And so, haha no ka'ui ka'ulula'au, that's why I wanted to come. And that's why, Marian and Charla, I appreciate the invitation. It's when we share purpose with each other, then the resonance has a capacity to grow. Here's my idol, Bucky Fuller. So, Buckminster Fuller, I listened to in the 80s before he died. He came to Hawaii, and I was in the audience. I brought my father. He was annoyed, but I still bought him anyway. So he said, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. Yeah, yes. So please build new models and call them kauhales. They could be models that allow for 1 cooking area and 10 families to live. So who says we all have to live in isolated family structures? Oh, that's right. It's in our land. It's in our land systems. Who says farmers can't live on their land? So that's the biggest issue along Hamakua and even on Oahu. We've got people that want to farm, but the land is 20 miles away, and you cannot afford to drive 20 miles a day. And so and I know that's going through the legislature, but it's not fast enough. We have to design thinking that allows us to understand the narrative, the framing, and everything. And people will choose not to own their land. We don't need to own land. We just think we do. I learned that in Aotearoa with Maori. I learned that through my wife's grandfather. That her uncle said, you do not need to own land, but you need to have access or the capacity to have a relationship with that aina, to be a farmer, to live with people. So we think we have to own things. That's an epistemology. That's a way of thinking. Okay, so here it is. I hope you read the article that developed 7 ways to discuss how we can rethink this issue. And it was done quite effortlessly in one night and given to the Civil Beat. And so these are 7 ways that we can actually begin to see housing in Hawaii. When you have aloha aina at the center, everything changes. everything, so that you're not begging to have an ulu tree. You can only plant an ulu tree at Hawaiian Homes in a planter. And I said, that's not an ulu tree. That's an ulu, you know, ornamental. So start with aloha aina first. Aloha aina, aloha kanaka. Love land, serve people. Love land, serve people. So these are seven ideas that came effortlessly one night. Ike aina to the right side, culture, agroforestry, and food security. Think of food around your buildings, your structures, in the ravines around. Put coconuts in the coconut trees. Get a mango tree in there. Get some bananas. Absolutely get an avocado tree growing somewhere, and it'll be like our old neighborhoods. Remember Kaimuki when it had mango trees everywhere? Kauhale. Kauhale is housing with a shared purpose. You can have Kauhale systems. Kauhale is a kind of a village. And so this village might be a village of Olelo, Hawaii, our language. This village might be a village of making and creating biochar that I'm just learning more about, creating good fertilizer to grow. I mean, it could be so many different reasons why people want to gather and learn. It could be a lauhala weaving kauhale. Just think of kauhale systems. Don't just think of, you know, of single family housing. Ike kupuna, enduring knowledge practices. There's so much to our Ike kupuna, the knowledge of our elders. It's just so much that you just, it's just, it could be one of the Kauhale systems, people that share in dream knowledge, people that share in Kaulana Mahina, moon knowledge, people that share in taking care of children. Awama Kuleana, it literally means to carry your responsibility, but the Noahuna version means collective transformation through individual excellence. Sorry for that misspelling. Looks Filipino, transformation. So collective transformation through individual excellence, meaning in Hawaii, we value difference. We make fun of difference. We manage difference. So awama kuleana is in a housing situation, you actually are looking for difference. And you have to honor that and ask, hey, what can you do? You might have somebody really good at plumbing that could help in a kauhale. You might have someone really good at construction, really good at just a million things, a million things. So when you understand how we differ, you'll understand the purpose that we can collectively share. That's awamo kuleana. Kokua aku, kokua mai. That's that sense of simultaneity. When you help others, the help is in you will receive help. It's not you scratch my back, I scratch yours. It's an energy of giving and knowing that the gift is in the giving and knowing that it will always be returned in its different ways. But that is a Hawaiian philosophical idea that really helps rethink and reformat this discussion of housing. And of course, ho'opono. Pono means truth in my book. It's the actual distillment of all the words, righteous, goodness, this, that. And so if you're speaking truth with everybody, you're going to actually not lie. And you're going to catch yourself when you lie. And I always do. I always say, wow, I just lied. So ho'opono, when you bring people together, you practice ho'opono with each other. And then they'll recognize it when it's not there. And of course, Nohono Hawaii is living Hawaiian way. We can do this in Hawaii. We can do this in Hawaii. This very image is a ho'okupu to Lono. Lono is not a god. It's not I don't practice Lono deity. It's Lono for us is elemental forms. Other people call him a god. These elemental forms that we made in Ki'i, we saw in dark gray clouds. It's called winter. So this is an image of some of the ho'okupu that we do up in Palekua to thank the rains. And I think we overdid it this year because a lot of rains came and our dry, hot area is now nourished. So, lono. So that Nohono Hawaii, people don't know what that is because you haven't given us a chance. We're too busy making money. So these are 7 ways that I touched on in the article, but these are 7 interpretations that my family, the Aluli family, is gifting to you to begin to see this opportunity to ho'oulu, to actually regain our sense of aloha, aloha aina, aloha kanaka, so we can love land and serve people. There it is. And so I'm giving you closure with these pictures of beloveds at Ku'ukaneloko, one of our first Ulu coconut groves. We planted 108 there, 16 varieties. And the distinction I want to end with is that Hawaii currently sees coconuts as an ornamental liability. Hawaiians have always seen coconuts as a tree of life. So what we've got here is the potential tension and contradiction of oxymorons. Where do we go from here? Supply and demand? Do I have to now earn $250,000 and my wife now has to earn $250,000 to afford a house that we are in debt to for 30 years? Or can we develop something that has nothing to do with capitalism? Love land, serve people, ornamental liability, or tree of life. So kupukaniu kupukikanaka. When coconuts grow, humanity flourishes. So when Ike Kupuna grows, humanity flourishes. So I'm asking in this short summary for us to consider a different way of viewing this problem by framing it differently. So I know that was fast, but I'd like to answer some questions now. So mahalo nui, mahalo nui, mahalo nui.